Hello, UFL fans. Well, it is already week 2. And like I say, week 1, we had one really good game, one okay game, and 2 absolutely terrible games, to say the least. I'm hoping this week we do get better games, although I'm looking at the schedule right now, I would say we may end up having the same thing as last week. One thing I hope is that we have better ratings and we have much better attendance. Let's start off tonight's game. The home opener for the Michigan Panthers. They will be taking on the divisional rival, the Birmingham Stallions. Of course, this is a rematch of last year's USFL championship game. And last year, Michigan lost 3 times to Birmingham, although they were good games. Especially, all 3 were pretty good games, but Birmingham always came out on top, and Birmingham took a thumping last weekend in D.C. Michigan beat a team, well, let's face it, the Memphis Showboats that have improved but still have a long way to go. Of course, the home opener last year for Michigan featured Jake Bates hitting a game-winning 64-yard field goal. He's been upgraded to the Detroit Lions now. So, we'll see how this game plays up. But I'm taking the Birmingham Stallions. I like Birmingham to rebound off of last year's thumping. Although, listen, Michigan's more than capable of winning this game. This should be a good game. In fact, I'm going to call this the most exciting game of the weekend between the 4 games. But I do see Birmingham rebounding like 26-20. But this should be a fun game. I do believe that. This game will be a primetime game on the Fox Network, Friday Night Football on Fox. Last week they had the highest rating of all the games, despite they had probably the worst game of the weekend, but it was the opening kickoff. Maybe that's why they got it. We'll see how they do this Friday night, tonight. We're about 2.5 hours away by the time this video uploads, so there you go. Alright, then tomorrow night, back to Audi Field we go. The DC Defenders, off their big win off of the Birmingham Stallions, take on the Memphis Showboats. The Showboats did look better last week. They played the Panthers pretty good. But there's still a lot of work to be done on the offensive end for Memphis. And if they thought the Michigan defense was brutal on last week, the DC defense is going to be even worse. Greg Williams knows one thing: attack, and beat them up, and they will. I don't see this being much of a game. Now, listen, I understand you're saying he's a Defenders fan. Yeah, but I can only go based off last week's action. I'm definitely taking the Defenders. The good news is I think Ken Whisenhunt is now back from his leave of absence, which is good. I think the Memphis Showboats really need his leadership. The league needs his leadership, so I'm taking DC to win that game. What I am maybe calling the worst game of the weekend. Now we have a doubleheader on Sunday, the first game at noon Eastern Time, which means this will be 11 a.m. game out in Arlington. I don't know how the church people out in Arlington are going to like this 11 a.m. game. I understand it does get hot out there, but why not make this a Friday game? Well, probably because you don't want the Roughnecks on 2 Friday nights in a row. I can't blame Fox for that one. But this is going to be an ESPN game. It's a noon game. The Roughnecks facing their Texas rival, the Arlington Renegades. The Roughnecks look like the worst team in football, like they looked the worst team in football last week. The Arlington Renegades look like a much better team, and I thought they'd be a much better team coming this year. Bob Stoops back at the helm for the 4th year now. I'm taking the Renegades to win this game big. I don't think this is going to be much of a game either. I really don't. I'm hoping the Roughnecks make this a game. I'm hoping C.J. Johnson can somehow turn around this team this season, because the league cannot afford to have the Roughneck. Well, they can't really afford to have any of their teams be awful. But, yeah, I'm taking the Renegades to win this game easily. And finally, the last game, which will be a primetime game on Sunday night. Well, not primetime game. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which means 5:30 out in the Central Time. The home opener for the St. Louis Battlehawks. They are facing the San Antonio Brahmas, their division rival. A rematch of last year's XFL championship game where the Brahmas went into St. Louis and beat them, which I thought was the worst thing for the league last year. I think they needed St. Louis to be in that championship game, and it took a lot of energy out for the XFL championship game. Sorry. But last week, Manny Wilkins in his debut as quarterback, replacing the still released, surprising A.J. McCarron. I cannot believe no one's picked him up yet. I'm sure the St. Louis crowd will have the biggest crowd of the weekend. That is a no-brainer. Hopefully they bring in about 30,000 like they've been doing since 2020. St. Louis fans, keep it up. You've been great for the league. Of course, St. Louis last week beat a very, very weak Houston team. And San Antonio looked surprisingly horrible against their Texas rival, the Arlington Renegades, last week. I do think this game will be close. St. Louis has got a good team. I think San Antonio's a better team than they showed last week. The question is, how much do they rebound? And the question is, how good St. Louis? I'm not going to count last week. I think Houston is going to be one of those teams everyone's just going to walk over this year. Hope I'm wrong for the sake of the league. But I'm taking St. Louis to win their home opener. All three games were close last year. I have every reason to believe this one will be fairly close. I'm looking at something like, San Antonio didn't give up more than 20 points more than 2 times last year. And they got hammered last week against Arlington. And the St. Louis offense with many weekends looks good. Do they give up more than 20 points for the second week in a row against a Wade Wilson team? I'm going 17-12 Battlehawks. So, there you go. There's your 4 games right now. Let me know what you think. Did I get something wrong? And the big thing on the board this week, everyone's posting that the Seattle Dragons will be an expansion team next year. I hope we do expand to at least 2 teams next year. I think Seattle would be a good place to go. They were great in 2020. But if they're going to bring back the Dragons, do us a favor. Announce it now. Start the ball rolling for the fan base now for next year. Get the base rolling like you did in 2020 when they were pretty much the second best team in attendance, only behind the Battlehawks. And that Seattle fan base was great. Now the question is, who will be the 10th team? I imagine they will bring back a USFL team back. I would think so. You would want to make the divisions even. I would. But when will they bring back? I don't know. What stadium can they get the best deal on? Which has the best grassroots survey? We don't know. But start the Seattle Dragons campaign now. Not only that, but this will have ripple effects around the league. If people get word, hey, wait a minute, they're expanding, I guess they are committed to this. You might get the ratings and attendance up. And we need that right now. After last week's disaster, again, I'm going to say it again. Last week was a terrible weekend to start the league, to start the year. They should have been done, it was either the 28th or March 2nd. They should have started on March 2nd. I say you should have started between the week of the championship games and the Super Bowl. I'm going to hammer that home the rest of the year. But start the ball rolling now. Get the league to know that this is going to be around. Don't like, well, you know, if things go this way. All right, then you're casting doubt. Your attendance and ratings are going to go down, and you're wasting our time. You knew this was going to be a loss for a few years. Take your lumps, okay? Be capitalistic. We're coming back next year, and we welcome back the Seattle Dragons. For the love of football, we'll talk to you tonight after the game. And leave your comments down below.